له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو بكل شيء عليم هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير وما لكم لا تؤمنون بالله والرسول يدعوكم لتؤمنوا بربكم وقد أخذ ميثاقكم إن كنتم مؤمنين هو الذي ينزل على عبده آيات بينات ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وإن الله بكم لرؤوف رحيم وما لكم ألا تنفقوا في سبيل الله ولله ميراث السماوات والأرض لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا وكلا وعد الله الحسنى والله بما تعملون بصير.
تكبير تكبير.
Inshallah, the next program will be to recognize our class of 2014. After that recognition, then we're going to switch to our own program, which will be led probably by our President, Brother Najib Muhammad, inshallah. Without further ado, I want to invite my brother Muhammad Dawood, who will give us about 5 or 10 minutes talk about our class of 2014. And he's going to give us a piece of advice how to lead our future, inshallah. So I want you to pay attention to him. The reason why we chose Brother Muhammad Dawood is he is a person who has been born and raised in this country. MashaAllah, he went to school like you did, and now he's the president of Muslim Society, Muslim American Society, I'm sorry. So he is a young man, MashaAllah, you know. He doesn't need any introduction because most of us know him from Mass. We saw him every night at the masjid during Taraweeh, Tahajjud, you know. This brother is a very dedicated individual. So I think coming from him, probably you might pay more attention than I probably give you a piece of advice, inshallah. So he doesn't need no introduction. I'm going to give it to Brother Muhammad Dawood.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Nouri, you're too kind, mashallah. First, I'd like to congratulate the class and graduates of 2014. Can everybody give them a round of applause? Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd. This is a special time, inshallah ta'ala, in everybody's life. Graduating, whether it is from high school or from college, is a time that a person kind of changes everything that they do. And I'll tell you what, the time that I remember going from high school to college was a transformative time. Because when you're in high school, there's certain realities that exist around you, and people care more about style, they care more about fashion, they care about more about their relationships with their peers than many other things. And then when you get to college, life changes a little bit, because at that point you're actually starting to pay for school. At that point, you're actually taking money out of your pocket, or probably out of your parents' pocket, to pay for your school. And there's a lot more pressure to achieve and do greatness, inshallah ta'ala. So it's a very important time in everybody's life. I'm going to mention something, and actually I'm going to ask you a question. Who knows what the first commandment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was? Raise your hand if you know. What was the first commandment that he gave to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Let's say it together. What is it? Iqra. But who was he talking to? He was talking to An-Nabiyul Ummi. An-Nabiyul Ummi means that he is the messenger who is illiterate. He doesn't know how to pick up a piece of paper and read the text that's on there. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the first commandment to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Iqra. It doesn't mean necessarily the traditional understanding of seeking education. It means learn. Learn. It doesn't mean just pick up a book and start reading. It doesn't mean pick up a book and just parrot the text that's on there. It's learn and understand. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many ayat in the Quran, He explains to us about learning. He says in the Holy Quran, إِنَّ فِي اخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ. He said, the changing of the day and the night. You take a look at the stars, they come out at nighttime. You take a look at the sun that covers and blankets the whole earth with its light. He says these are signs for who? لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Those who contemplate. Those who think. So learning right now, we're not talking about just reading, we're talking about thinking and contemplating. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave special attention to those of us who are scholars. He said that the ones that have the most closeness and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the scholars. And not necessarily just scholars in Islam, people that have studied the Quran and the Hadith. In fact, if you look at the history of the scholars in Islam, they're ones who studied medicine and astronomy and algebra. What is algebra called algebra for? Al-Jabir. He's a Muslim scholar. When you sit there in class, what is it, in 5th grade, do you guys do algebra? When you're sitting there doing your algebra homework and you're like, I hate algebra. Do you know who you're talking about? It's a Muslim scholar who invented it. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in many ahadith, he said, من خرج في طلب العلم. Who here is going to stay in state, or who here is going to go to George Mason or close by? Nova, George Mason. Who here is traveling, whether to Richmond, VCU, or out of state? Is anybody from our graduates going out of state? All right, no? I'm sure some of you are. The Prophet ﷺ said, من خرج. Whoever left his house, it doesn't matter whether you left 50 miles or 5 miles. He said, مَنْ خَرَجَ فِي طَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ حَتَّى يَرْجَعْ. Whoever left their house, their dwelling, for seeking knowledge, then you are on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until you come home. That means if anything, may God forbid, anything happen to you, then you have died fi sabilillah. That you have died the death of a martyr, a person who has given his life or her life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you when you leave your house trying to seek knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ also said something very important. He compared those who are learned and those who are just righteous. He said, those who are learned are like the full moon. Have you guys ever been out to the desert, or have you ever been out to Shenandoah where there's no city lights around you? And you take a look up in the sky and the stars, you see many more stars. But then you take a look at the sky and there's a full moon right there. And it blankets the whole earth, so it's like the sun in the nighttime. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, the learned person is like that moon at nighttime, whereas the righteous are like the stars. So the one who is learned, he gives light in darkness, much more than the one who is just righteous for himself. Who is just righteous for himself. And the Prophet ﷺ also told us that Allah made the path to paradise easy for those who are learned. Easy for those who educate and give and teach. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. The best of you is the one who learned the Quran and taught it. But we know because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran and the hadith, many hadith, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged learning in general, learning beneficial knowledge and teaching it. The person has a high status on the Day of Judgment. The Day of Judgment is a very difficult time. But for those who learned, it's going to be much easier. The Prophet ﷺ said, we are going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, waiting in the time everybody's standing before Allah until He asks you about 4 things. He's going to ask you about your life and what you did with it. You're standing before Allah with presidents and kings and everybody in the whole whoever lived from the beginning of time until the end of time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you about your life and what you did with it, and your knowledge and how you shared it and what you did with the knowledge that you gained, and the money, your wealth, and how you spent it. And there was one word which is not coming to me right now, but the important thing is, when you go out and you learn, you have to give it. If you retain knowledge for yourself, it's a given example of like a donkey carrying books on his back. There's no benefit to that person. So class of 2014, whether you're going to college or whether you're graduating to high school, know that when you leave your house, you're going to seek knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are fi sabilillah until you get back. And that whatever you retain, you have to give. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put His blessings in our graduates, inshaAllah ta'ala. Make them the shining moon in the dark sky, and make them a shining light in our society. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Barakallah fiik. Let me just give you an example for the graduates. We have a lot of role models in this country, and definitely Muhammad is one. And there is another one that I admire the most. Najib, myself, Zaytuna, and the brother Umar sat with this individual and talked to him for a long time about the situation in Ethiopia. His name is Rashad Hussein. Rashad Hussein is an ambassador for the United States to the Organization of Islamic Countries. And he's a Harvard graduate. Guess what? He is a Hafiz. Allahu Akbar. We also have a graduate right here. I don't know if he's here or not. Imran. Imran, is he here? He's not. He is a Hafiz, and also he graduated from the highest GPA from Annandale High School, and he has a full scholarship at Williams and Mary. It's one of the best universities in Virginia. So we have a lot of role models. The themes that we are passing on is your deen and the Western education can go hand in hand. So that, in Islam, we have to acquire knowledge in every field. We need engineers, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need everybody in every field, inshallah. So you guys pursue this and acquire that knowledge while you keep your Islam in your heart. Individual is not here, so the mother, the father, whoever is here, a friend can come in and get the award from First Hijrah, inshallah. Okay, we're going to start Hawa Bashir. Hawa. MashaAllah, she graduated from University of Maryland. MashaAllah, Hawa is a mother of 2. MashaAllah. She is a good example for the rest of you. Okay, Dina Noor, is she here? I don't know who she is, but Dina Noor, can you come up?
You can take it.
MashaAllah. Okay. Aziza Muzammil. Is she here? Iman Abdurrahman. Iman. Ilham Sayyid Abdurrahman. Iman Abdul Malik. Iman Abdul Malik. Muhammad. Oh. Wisha Khali Lijacho. ማዘጋጀት ቀላል አይደለም። ምናልባት ቤታችሁ 10 ሰው ግብዣ የጠራችሁ ሰዎች ምናልባት ልታውቁ ትችላላችሁ። የተወሰኑ ሰዎች ዛሬ ወላሂ 8 o'clock ነበር የመጣነው 8 ብዙዎቹ ጓደኞቻችን ቢጃማቸውን የቀየሩት 11:30 ነው። እኛ ያለን ኢንተሊጀንስ ሪፖርት ደርሶናል። አላ ኩሊ ሐል ይሄን የምናደርገው ያው አንደኛ ለአላህ ነው፣ ሁለተኛ ደግሞ ለኮሚኒቲያችን ሁላችንም አስተዋጽኦ ማድረግ አለብን በሚል ነው። ስለዚህ የዚህ የፒክኒክ ኮሚቴ ኦርጋናይዚንግ ኮሚቴዎችን አንድ ጊዜ ሪኮግናይዝ እንዳደርግ ጠይቃለሁ። ሁሴን አህመድ ሁሴን is the engine. አብደላ ተክቢር ደግሞ ሞተሩ ነው እሱ። አዜብ አብዱላሂ፣ ዘይቱና ሁሴን፣ ሄዋን ኢብራሂም፣ ባህሪያ አማን፣ ሰይፈዲን፣ ጀማል ኡስማን፣ ቃድሬ፣ ሙኒር እና ሀኒም አብዱላሂ ያረዱናል። ዛሬ ለምሳሌ 8 o'clock መገኘት ሲገባው ያልተገኘበት ምክንያት ገብቶናል። ወንድማችን ሚፍታህ ከአዲስ አበባ ስልክ ተደውሎ ትላንትና አባት ስለሆነ ለሊት ቁጭ ብሎ ስላደረ ለሊቱን ሙሉ ለሊት ስላልተኛ ጠዋት እንቅልፍ ወስዶት ነው። ስለዚህ አፉ ብለን ነው
አቡበከር ተብሎ አንድ ጊዜ አቡበከር ብልግበት ባረከላሁ ፊኩም አቡኪ ያ ኢንሻአላህ። ሌላው ደግሞ ለሁሉም የሁላችንም መሪ ሆነው ለረጅም ጊዜ አክቲቪቲ ኮሚቴ ፕሬዝዳንት የሆነው ወንድማችን ኑሩ ጀዛኩሙላህ ኸይር። ሁላችሁም አንድ ጊዜ ሞቅ ያለ ጭብጨባ። ሌላው የእህቶቻችን ድምፅ ሲነሳ ሁሉ አለ። ይገባችኋል፣ ቀንቼ አይደለም ይገባችኋል። እና በድጋሚ ለእህቶቻችን አንድ ጊዜ
وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فيا أخوتي وأحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. እንግዲህ ከፕሬዝዳንታችን በፊት የጀመርኩበት ምክንያት እሳቸው ወጣ ሲሉ ርዝቁ ወደ እኔ መጥቶ ነው። ኢንሻአላህ አፉ በለኝ ኢንሻአላህ። እንግዲህ ዛሬ ራሴን እናንተንም ለማስታወስ በመክረው በመጀመሪያ ደረጃ አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala በአመቱ በሰላም ሰጥቶን ጤና ሰጥቶን አፍያ ሰጥቶን እዚህ በአመቱ በመገናኘታችን ለአላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ምስጋና ይገባው። ያሳለፍነውንም ረመዳን አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ጾማችንን አላህ ይቀበለን። ዒዳችንንም ደግሞ አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala በአጠቃላይ ዒድ ሙባረክ ለሁላችንም። በሁለተኛ ደረጃ የዘንድሮ ያው እንዳያችሁት የ2014 ተመራቂዎች እጅግ በጣም ብዙ ናቸው። በጣም ደስ የሚል ነው። እንኳን ደስ አላችሁ እላችኋለሁ። ይሄም የሚያመላክተው ኮሚኒቲያችን እያደገ መሆኑ ነው። ፈርስት ሂጅራ በጣም እያደገ ነው የሚሄደው፣ እያደገም ነው። አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ይህንን ኮሚኒቲ ያቆይልን። የምንዋደድ አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ያድርገን። አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ደግሞ ሰፊ ቦታ ይስጠን። ኢንሻአላህ ዱዓ አድርጉበት። አላህ ሰፋ ያለ ቦታ ለኛ ለራሳችን ዒዳችንን የምንሰግድበት ሁላችንም ኮሚኒቲያችን የሚያሰባስብልን አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ይስጠን።
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. በመጀመሪያ እንኳን እንግዲህ ለአመቱ አደረሰን ላስት ይር እንደዚሁ አድምቃችሁት ነበር ሸኻልድ ሁሉንም ንብሎታል እንግዲህ ሁሉ ጊዜ ካሁን ወዲያ አላህ Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala ድል እስኪሰጠን ድረስ ባደር በመናደርገው ኦኬዥን ሁሉ ወንድሞቻችንን ማስተዋወስ አለብን አገር ቤት ውስጥ ያሉትን ሙስሊሞች ማስተዋወስ አለብን ኢንሻአላህ እንግዲህ ሰሞኑን የሆኑትን ሁሉ ሰምታችኋል እንደ አዲስ ላልሰማችሁ ደግሞ የኢትዮጵያ ውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስትር እዚህ ዋሽንግተን መጥቶ በአፍሪካ ሰሚት ላይ የኢትዮጵያን ሙስሊሞችን ወንጅሎ ሄዷል በአንድ በአማርኛ ሬዲዮ የማንሰማ መስሎት ነው አልহামዱሊላህ ረቢል ዓለሚን ለሱ መልስ በተሰጠው መሰረት ኢንሻአላህ ተዓላ እሱ ማለቱ ብቻ ሳይሆን እሱ ያለው ነገር ሐሰት መሆኑን በቅርቡ ከስቴት ዲፓርትመንት ሰዎች ጋር ተገናኝተን ምክንያቱም እሱ ኤቪደንሱን የሰጠን ስቴት ዲፓርትመንት ነው ብለዋል ይሄ እንዳልሆነ እንዲረጋገጥ እናደርጋለን باذنillah تعالى የፊለፈት የሰኞ ሳምንት ደግሞ ሰላማዊ ሰልፍ አለ ኢንሻአላህ pay attention ሁላችሁም እንድትገኙ እንፈልጋለን ጊዜው ቦታው I think ስቴት ዲፓርትመንት ይመስለኛል በዚሁ ጉዳይ ላይ ነው ኢንሻአላህ ሁላችሁም ተባበሩን ወንድሞቻችን በተለይ ትላንትናና ትላንት ወዲያ ፍርድ ቤት ቀርበው እነ በድሩ ሁሴን እነ አህመድ ሙስጠፋ የተናገሩት ነገር ከልባችን የሚወጣ አይደለም 48 ሰዓት ጨለማ ቤት አግብተው በሰንሰለት አስረዋቸው ያለ ምግብ ያለ ውሃ ሲያሰቃዩዋቸው ቆይተው ፍርድ ቤት መተው ያለቀሱ ነው ለዳኛው የነገሩት ዳኛው እንትን አስተላልፎ ነበር ምግብ እንዲሰጥ እዛም ሲሄዱ አንዲት ነገር አናቀምሳችሁም ገና ታያላችሁ ተብሎ በፉከራ ሱብሃንአላህ መንግስት አለበት በተባለበት ሀገር ውስጥ ፍርድ ቤት ላይ ምግብ መጥቶላቸው ፍርድ ቤት ነው የበሉት እንደዚህ ያለ ግፍም ይሰራበት ሀገር ሆኗልና ኢንሻአላህ ሁላችንም ለዚህ ትግል መስዋዕትነት መስጠት አለብን ብዙ አልተጠየቅንም ይገረፋሉ ይሰቃያሉ የዛሬ 3 ሳምንት በፊት ከአንወር መስጊድ ወጥተው ወደ የቤታቸው ሲሄድ ከመሄዳቸው በፊት ታፍሰው ተገርፈው ሴቶቹን ያደረጓቸውን የሰሯቸውን ግፍ ብትሰሙ የሚያስለቅስ ነው ልብሳቸውን ጅልባባቸውን ሒጃባቸውን አውልቀው በምሽት በጨለማ በሙታንቲያቸው ነው የለቀቋቸው ጅብ እንዲበላቸው ለዚህም በየመንደሩ ሲሄዱ የሶቪየት ያንኳኩ ልብስ ጨርቅ ተሰጥቷቸው ነው ቤተሰቦቻቸውን ጠርተው እንትን ያሉት እና ሙስሊሞቹ ላይ የሚደርሰው ግፍ ወንድምና እህቶቻችን ላይ የሚደርሰው ግፍ እንደዚህ በቀላል ማየት የለብንም والله ቢቻለን ኖሮ ከነሱ ጋር ሆነን እዛው ብንሞት ይሻል ነበር አደራችሁን ሁሌም ቢሆን በምንም ቻንስ ስናገኝ ድጋፋችንን መግለጽ አለብን ኢንሻአላህ ይሄንን ወረቀት ለሁሉ አስተላልፍልኝ አድርገን እንችለው ይሄው ሁላችሁ ተነሱና አብደላህ መፈክሩን ይሰጣችኋል ከዛ በፊት ግን ብዙ ምግብ ስለተረፈ ባካችሁን መጣል የለበትን ብሉልን እየተባለ ነው جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله
تكبير 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 ان شاء الله ሁላችንም አንድ ብድግ እንላለን መፈክሩን ወደ ላይ እናደርጋለን ان شاء الله መፈክሩን እንይዛለን ሁላችንም ان شاء الله ድምጻችን ይሰማ ድምጻችን ይሰማ ድምጻችን ይሰማ ድምጻችን እህቶቻችን ጋር መፈክር አደረሰን ተክቢር 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 እኛ የኮሚቴው ነን እኛ የኮሚቴው ነን ኮሚቴው የኛ ነው ኮሚቴው የኛ ነው በጨለማ ቤት ማሰር ምግብ መከልከል በሰንሰለት ማሰር ትግላችንን ለአንዲትም ደቂቃ
Take you.